Welcome to Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, we are right smack dab in the middle of June minicamp. We saw Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo the last couple of days taking reps, both with the ones and the twos, while newcomer Matt Flynn replacing Garrett Gilbert as the third quarterback in camp on the roster with the team. He's off getting really individual coaching. What is really the decision of the Patriots coaching staff behind letting Brady and Garoppolo get snaps with the ones while Matt Flynn gets personal attention?
Well, you have to kind of get him up to speed as fast as possible. You know, you don't want to throw him into the deep end of the pool, but at the same time, you want to make sure he understands the nuances of the playbook. And he did get some 11-on-11 work toward the end of practice, ended up throwing a touchdown pass, looked good in limited action, but right now the focus has got to be on Brady, Garoppolo, getting those two guys ready for the season, and then you worry about Flynn, and then you try and, like I said, get him up to speed. You want to get him into the system. You want to give him a good working knowledge of what he needs to know. That way, you come back here at the end of July, training camp, you're ready to roll.
Something both of us have noticed the last couple of days here in minicamp is the fact that Tom Brady has been running with the number twos against the top defense, or what we would project a reasonable facsimile as the top defense, while Jimmy Garoppolo takes the number ones on offense and runs up against the number twos on defense. Why?
I think that's just really, you're looking to get guys as many looks as possible. You want to vary things, because during the year, we all know this, guys go down, there are injuries, you need to shuffle personnel. I wouldn't read too much into it, but I think it's important to get guys with looks at as many reps as possible, you know, throughout the system, because you want to get guys familiar with each other. You want to get guys who might not have a history with each other. You want to get them learning how to play together, especially if something happens during the year, you get an injury, you get a change in personnel, you need to account accordingly.
All right, speaking of some of the players, especially on the skill position side of things that have stood out, certainly Brian Tyms has had a very good spring so far in the limited amount of time we've been able to watch through OTAs and the last couple of days here in minicamp. Today, on Wednesday, not so much. Ironic that he spoke afterwards with the media for the first time really at length, and he was kind of asked about that, you know, the fact that you've had a very good spring. Was this just a hiccup? What have been your thoughts about Brian Tyms and what he has been able to show both in intermediate length routes and deep routes?
I think right up until today, to your point, he was having a very good spring. Today he looked a little ragged, he had a couple of drops. I don't know if the fact that was because he was running with the ones or whatever, but you look at Tyms and you look at Dobson, those are the two guys who've got the majority of reps with Brandon LaFell on the sidelines. I think they've done very well for themselves. You still want to see more. Maybe tomorrow if they do have a third mini-camp practice over the course of July, August, and training camp, but I think they've laid a pretty good foundation at this point this spring.
We know what we have if you're a Patriot follower in Julian Edelman. But Danny Amendola is a fascinating wild card. Obviously, he's had his moments in his time so far with the Patriots, but really a special teams receiver, special teams player and contributor, especially towards the end of last year. Today, I thought he had a very impressive day, running underneath routes and looking very reliable. Danny Amendola is a fascinating wild card in this offense.
I think if he can build on his strong finish the last season, I'm including the end of the regular season into the postseason, he played very well over the second half of the month of December and into the playoffs. If he can continue to build on that, I think the Patriots really have something there. I think you bring up an excellent point. I think he's another guy who's been able to really do a good job over the course of the spring, over the course of the summer, continuing on what he was able to do at the end of the year last year. I still think a lot of that goes back to getting a jump start from a special teams perspective. When we saw him out there again today, working as a punt returner, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of that going forward from him. But yeah, he's put himself in a very good spot at this point in the offseason.
I've had a couple of people on Twitter ask me, what about Dion Lewis? There's a guy that maybe a back projects possibly as a back of the roster guy. He was somebody who looked very impressive again here on Wednesday. What do you know about Dion Lewis, and where can you realistically project him as we move forward towards training camp?
I think your point is a fair one. I think right now he projects to be a middle to back end of the roster guy, but he's done very well with the limited opportunities he's had to this point. What he needs to do is to display some consistency. He needs to be able to show that he has learned this playbook. He needs to be able to show that he's picked up some of those nuances, what some of the other offensive skill position guys like, namely the quarterback, where he needs to be in certain situations. So he's at a good point. You know, right now on the calendar, He needs to continue to build on that if he wants to be able to get some more opportunities down the road.
And we had a chance to watch minicamp here on Wednesday, and it was an interesting moment when Tom Brady, to your point, Chris, called him out and actually complimented him on running a good route toward the end zone. It looked like a very close facsimile of what would be a red zone situation, and Tom Brady gave him some praise. And look, Tom Brady giving you praise at any stage of preparations, whether it's OTAs, minicamps, or training camp, can go a long ways towards building a guy's confidence.
Exactly. We've seen that with younger receivers here over the years. Guys who just got here, guys who do have a couple of years in the league. Anytime Brady singles you out in that fashion, that's a good thing. I think that the problems come when Brady does not say anything to you. Right. When Brady completely shuts down the communication. So as long as he's talking to you, as long as he's encouraging you, as long as he continues to display some sort of affinity for you and your work, that's a good thing if you're a receiver.
Defensive side of the ball, let's start first with somebody who spoke after minicamp practice here on Wednesday, and that is Dominic Easley, a guy coming off a knee surgery and a knee situation toward the end of last year. Obviously, he is trying to build back his confidence like anybody does coming back from a knee injury. You had the chance to spend some time with Dominic Easley. What were your impressions?
Fascinating prospect, especially at this stage of his career. When you look at the limited amount of action he had last season, he's really coming into 2015 after spending 2014 as a redshirt player. I think there's going to be more put on his plate going forward, especially in the wake of the departure of Vince Wilfork. Now, they're not the same player.
No, definitely not.
Remember, they're not the same player, but the guidance that Wilfork was able to give him over the course of the 2014 season, something he talked about, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out for him. I also wonder what's a reasonable level of expectation for him over the course of the 2015 season. Should he be expected to step in instantly and make an impact, or is that going to be one of those things where you kind of have to, kind of manage the expectations, kind of take a look at the career arc and say, well, we don't want him to be, or he might not be ready to be a full-time starter on day one, but by the end of the 2015 season, he's going to be a guy that they're going to lean heavily on. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out for him. I think this franchise has a very high level of expectation for him when it comes to 2015.
Something that I'm really looking forward to as we move forward to, Chris, looking ahead to full training camp in just over a month here at Gillette Stadium, is how the secondary plays out. We had a chance to talk to both Bradley Fletcher and Robert McClain here after practice on Wednesday, and Bill Belichick said it's obvious that Robert McClain in his time with the Falcons has played a lot more in the slot and is a guy maybe projects to perhaps take over for Kyle Arrington, who served a similar role here with the Patriots and now is departed and left the team, and Bradley Fletcher, who plays primarily on the perimeter. What have been your thoughts in the time that you've been able to watch them here in practice?
I think McClain right now projects to be the #1 option in the slot for New England. That's not to say that someone else between now and the start of the regular season couldn't end up taking that job. Maybe Darryl Roberts, the rookie, who I think has flashed very well to this point in the preseason, or the offseason.
Right.
But I think right now, if you're putting together a depth chart for the Patriots, you have to look at some combination of Logan Ryan, Malcolm Butler, and McClain in the slot, and then Fletcher on the other side. I think it's, we talk about easily being a fascinating prospect. I think Fletcher is also intriguing on a number of levels because there's two schools of thought there. He either hit the wall in Philadelphia and is just not the same player that he used to be, or he was being misused by the Eagles. So I want to see him here. I want to see him in path, really. I want to, before we can really pass judgment on him, over the course of a week or two of training camp practice, and see how he does getting after it before you make a real judgment on him. But again, he, to me, projects as one of the more intriguing guys to watch in the summer.
And when Bill Belichick, as he did here on Wednesday, says that you do a lot and have done a lot in the past, I think that is high praise for Robert McClain. That's the way I read that. Jake Beck, he is a guy that's made the move not from the offense to the defense, but from the defense to the offense, and is trying to really make some hay in the tight end room. He spoke after practice here on Wednesday about the fact that he is really picking the brains of guys like Kuman and obviously Gronk, and what they've been able to show him about the little intricacies of learning the Patriot offense. Remember, we talk about a guy like Matt Flynn having to learn the entire Patriots offensive playbook. While it's not quite that complicated for the tight end, he still has to look at it from a different point of view now, and it's a very difficult transition for a lot of guys to make. What have been your impressions of the way Beckett has handled the attempt to move from defensive end to tight end?
He's got a long road ahead of him at this point, and I think that really, even beginning to forecast what he could do for 2015 at the tight end position is a really dicey situation. He does have some practice squad eligibility. Still has some practice squad eligibility, so you might see him ultimately pass through waivers, go to the practice squad, and spend a year kind of learning how to be a tight end here in New England. But when you consider the depth chart that they have at that spot, when you consider Gronkowski and Chandler and Hooman and Fred Davis and Scott Chandler, it's an awful tough road for a guy like Jake Beckett to break through that group. Something
Beckett mentioned to us after practice is special teams. He said it several times, so obviously his thinking is, and as he has proven in the past, he can be a quality contributor on special teams. That may be a way that he makes this roster, and obviously the more you can do, the more valuable you are in Foxborough.
Well, they're guys who, offensive skill position guys who've done it, who made a living doing that. Brandon Bolden is the first guy who comes to mind as the type of guy who kind of found a niche as a special teams guy and then eventually worked his way onto the offensive roster. To an expanded role in the offensive roster. Ben Jarvis Jr. is another guy who did that. But it's going to be a rough patch for Beckett, and I want to see how he handles. He was able to get some reps in the defensive end spot over the last couple of years here in New England. I want to see how he does, again, with limited reps on the offensive side of the ball. It's not saying he couldn't, ultimately make that leap and be a contributor at the tight end spot, but again, it's going to be an awful long road for the young man at Arkansas.
After Thursday, a lot of these guys are going to go off on their own and take a well-earned vacation time. They're going to have their playbooks with them, like Matt Flynn reminded us on Tuesday. Just because we get away doesn't mean some of us who are very new to the program won't be studying in the off-season. We will. But obviously, Tom Brady won't be just getting away. He has an appointment with Roger Goodell in New York City. We believe in New York City, Manhattan, next Tuesday. As you look ahead to that meeting, what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's all on Brady at this point, really, because I think that when we can come at this from a common sense perspective, which ultimately could be a mistake, but if you come at it from a common sense perspective...
Has been so far.
Exactly. You're going to see Brady's suspension get reduced, whether it's 3 games, 2 games, 1 game, down to nothing, whatever. If it is reduced to, say, 2 games, then the ball's in Brady's court. If he wants to take it, pursue it legally, I think he has a pretty good shot at beating the case, but at the same time, ultimately, he then is not on the Patriots' schedule. You're working on, the whims of the legal system, and as we all know, the wheels of justice can occasionally grind a little slower than you might like. So, I think he has a big choice to make. I think that the other thing to take into account, and I know we've talked about this before, is at what point does the NFLPA start driving the bus as opposed to the Patriots? The NFLPA wants to do their due diligence and support their player, but at the same time, their decision to pursue it might not be the same sort of decision that the Patriots are interested in. The Patriots obviously want to get the quarterback on the field as soon as possible. I don't know if the Patriots would say, look, Tom, take the 2 games, we'll get Jimmy Garoppolo ready, you can come back week 3 for the Jaguars, and we'll just move from there. It's going to be fascinating to see how all of this plays out. There are a lot of different things in play here.
Next time we convene here at Gillette Stadium, Chris, formally, we will know what the decision is, and we'll probably know pretty well down the legal process where the Patriots stand and whether or not it's going to be Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows, even Matt Flynn start, which is not likely, but still possible, on opening night here on September 10th against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are going to hold Monster Jam in the meantime behind us, and for those of you who have such an affinity for such events, I'm sure Gillette Stadium will be the place for you as well. Until we speak again in July as the Patriots kick off training camp, he is Christopher Price. I'm Mike Petraglia, outside Gillette Stadium, WEEI.com.